Our final set of finalists, last but not least, the Callington cluster, ladies and gentlemen, who provided us with some little-known facts. The only place, Callington apparently, I'm sure you knew this, the only place in Cornwall that's more than 30 minutes from the sea. Why would you need to know that? But anyway. And within the cluster, Stoke Climsland is the home of the oldest post office in the country. 175 years old in January it was. So I'd ask for a round of applause, but we haven't got time. We're pressing on. No, please. And I assure you their presentation is very much more in keeping with modern times. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. This is Callington. A youth project leader is what they're after, to work with local organisations and agencies towards the well-being of the younger generation, and secondly, to create a youth church. So it's a similar theme. Let's see how they get on with it. Kickstart for Youth.
The headlines on Sunday the 23rd of February. A study for the Prince's Trust claims that as many as 750,000 young people in the UK may feel they have nothing to live for. This comes on top of Lord Carey's stark warning that the Church of England may be one generation away from extinction. He blamed church leaders, saying they should be ashamed of their failure to bring youngsters into their services. As far back as 2010, the Church of England itself stated, "The tragedy is that we appear to be failing even those with whom we have already connected." But despite this warning, little seems to have changed in the last 4 years. In a special report, we examine the crisis facing our younger generation and find out how a small community in Cornwall is doing things differently in order to face a challenge head-on. But first, we sent our reporter out into the community to find out more about the crisis.
We're all labelled as hoodies and hooligans. I don't feel that anyone appreciates us. It would be good to have somewhere safe and fun to go.
The Church of England hasn't supported me in my faith. There isn't anything for young people, and I don't believe they're ever going to do anything about it.
UK agencies and the Church spend millions of pounds on youth work. So what is going wrong? Patrick Regan, a leading Christian campaigner for young people, explains why so many previous initiatives have failed. He says any solutions must be found through working with the community, not by doing things for them or to them. He quotes, "We can have great intentions and mean well, but if we don't get involved and really understand their lives, for good and bad, we're unlikely to bring any long-term solutions." In an exciting development, this approach has been picked up on by a team from Callington in Cornwall, who are embarking on a radically different approach to working with young people and doing church differently. They believe that for too long, the church has stayed inside the safety of its own community, employing the youth workers that work from the inside out. Jesus didn't play safe. He went out amongst the lost and lonely in order to bring them in to the kingdom. Working with the community is the cornerstone of the project, getting to grips with the real issues and engaging young people in possible solutions. Engagement continues with a coming together of community groups with police, health, youth services and education to commit to and plan onward solutions. Youth Wellbeing and Youth Church then run side by side, discovering the kingdom and growing the church. The Kickstart for Youth project is a sustainable programme that has the potential to transform young lives. Their plan could be the one that will change both the fortunes of young people and the Church of England. But will this new approach work? We asked Gary Lobbett, Principal of Callington Community College, and Police Inspector Roger Bartlett for their comments on the proposals.
There are high levels of deprivation in the Callington area. Many families lack security and consistency for a wide range of complex reasons. Having Kickstart working with and alongside the college and other organisations would be of great benefit, and I firmly believe the timescales involved mean that it will have a genuine impact.
Kickstart for Youth clearly reflects the aim of raising aspirations and steering young people away from criminality and other harmful behaviour. I'm impressed not only by the quality of the project, but also by the energy and commitment so obviously invested into this project thus far.
But all is not secure in this exciting project. As we are on air, the team is applying for funding to employ a pioneer youth worker to kickstart the project. If successful, their bid could signal the beginning of a new era for young people and for the church. Let's cut live to Truro College as the team sum up their bid and face the questions of the Bishop's Den.
Kickstart is not just about appointing a youth pioneer. It's about equipping and mobilising the adult church to serve youth.
We've done our due diligence and planning, and we believe this project brings hope to young people. This is mad. Look, panel, you've seen our proposals, you know how robust they are. But the reason to say yes to this project is the young girl that stood on that stage. She is homeless. She has health issues. She has no support from family, and she's currently staying with one of the bid team while we put her back on her feet. She came here today in the hope that through this project, other people like her will get the support they need. So please say yes, but don't say yes for us. Say yes for her and young people like her.
Thank you very much indeed. Some questions from us, and then...
Thank you very much for that, and for that very strong message as well. How is this different from other youth projects that we see?
One of the things we've done is actually look at best practice. So many youth projects fail. Some of the key reasons are that youth workers are left on their own, that they're not adequately supported. Secondly, as you heard Patrick Reagan say then, that projects are put in to communities rather than actually being developed with the young people themselves, and that they're isolated, they're not integrated. You see, we're working with police, NHS, local social services, schools, colleges, and actually getting them to develop and commit to the projects themselves. So of course we have ideas of what some of the potential solutions in the community might be, but it's important that the answer comes from them and is owned by them. And also that the youth worker isn't in isolation, is supported by a full management team, a team of volunteers, a steering group, so that they feel supported and they're working as part of a wider group. It's about the church really coming out of the building and working with agencies to the benefit of young people, but with those young people.
Could I ask you just to tell us a little bit more about how you plan to do that, in engaging the young people to actually, I don't know, design what happens, particularly in the youth church?
Well, we've already got in plan surveys that are done through internet means and things like that. So we're sort of keying into the social media that they will use to seek their views back. But also by coming very closely into working alignment with people like the colleges who deal with youngsters day by day. We begin to understand their needs in community. From a youth church perspective, we look at people and their faith journey and say, well, how do we take people from where they are to create disciples for Christ? And that, I think, is very much a blank sheet of paper. We would see it that, you have to give a youth church its own identity, not impose things from outside.
Can I follow that up a little bit? I mean, some people, not least the young people we saw in the previous presentation, would say that church is not that it's toxic in a way. Do you want to call it youth church? Do you want to call it something else?
No, if you, in our report, you saw that we've also looked at best practice in terms of youth church. If you look at the people that do church worship, let's say, for young people well, you take Spring Harvest of this world, Soul Survivor, it's separately branded. And the young people feel they own it. When we were doing our initial research, one of our young people said, why on earth, why expect young people to come to church on a Sunday morning? It's the only day of the week we get to lie in. You've actually got to develop it from their perspective. We try and fit them into our mould, rather than helping them develop church for themselves and worship for themselves.
Thank you.
I think they've got something to teach us about lying in on Sunday mornings.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Here, here.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I was thinking much the same thing at about just after 6 o'clock this morning at Gatwick, actually. That sort of thing of having a lie-in. Well, that was a very interesting performance, I have to say. Very stripped down, very basic, compared with some of the other performances we've seen today. Was that a conscious decision?
Yes, it was, because we believe that there is a serious problem for youth and also a serious problem for the church in engaging with it. So we just want to present the facts, really, as we see it.
Well, some of the facts and some of the lines you included, I mean, the church being one generation away from extinction, for example, and there were some fairly shocking images in amongst all that. Again, how did you feel about putting those into the presentation?
I think it's very easy for us to sit in our churches and worry about services, and we hear headlines about young people, but we think it's not happening in our communities. And it is. You know, all the time there are young people out there who are suffering. And they're being allowed to fall. And as disciples, we should be out there with them. You know, Jesus didn't sit in a church. He went out to the lost and lonely to bring them into the kingdom. And that's where we need to be.
She's good, isn't she? She's good. Excellent. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you very much. Very best of luck to you.